Welcome to the video, guys, and we are working on a 2001 Ram 3500. It's my truck with 24 valve Cummins in it, and I believe it's the 47 RE transmission. I gotta double check, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So the issue that I'm having right now is I'm having it high shift and rough shift, basically. So I'm gonna go take you guys for a test drive, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. All right, so the transmission doesn't have an issue in terms of power. It holds the power just fine. It's not slipping or anything like that. It's pretty much just the shift points that are kind of screwy. So what I'm going to show you in a minute here is basically how it shifts. And all I'm doing is a steady light throttle. Adding more throttle. Then it shifts finally, basically about 2,500 RPM. Same thing with 35. $40 miles an hour. There we go, it finally shifts again, right about 2,500 RPM. So that's obviously super annoying. Now, I've been driving it in a way to kind of make it shift. So I'm gonna slow back down here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hopping again. So the way I've been driving is I'll give it throttle and then let off, and it'll shift more normally. So throttle, let off, shifts, and you're kind of driving it like a mock manual. But when it does shift, it also shifts hard, like really hard. It's enough to jerk the whole truck around. So it is definitely kind of annoying. I don't know if it's just a thing with Dodges or what, but this is my only one I've had, and I don't think that's normal. So what I'm gonna go ahead and try and do is we're gonna go ahead and do a band adjustment on the transmission. I tried messing with the TV cable, and if you're not familiar with what that is, basically it's the it's a cable connected to the throttle that runs to the transmission, and it basically measures where the throttle position is and when to shift. So I loosened it up and I was able to lower my shift RPMs under that partial throttle where it kind of let off. Probably by, got it down to about 2,000 RPM is where it'll shift at, just about always. Still higher than I'd like it, and a lot like harsher than I would like it to, but here we go again. Yeah, so that's me modulating the throttle to kind of help try and get it to shift. But it is really frustrating. I prefer it did. All right, so let's go ahead and hop under here and see what we find. Now, I'm not expecting this necessarily to fix it, but I figure it's something that we can try. I do plan on adding more power to this truck at some point, so we will be getting a beefed up transmission. But all right, now that we're under here, looks like that is the first adjustment screw right there. So I'm going to go ahead and actually adjust this first one out exterior to the transmission first, and then we'll go ahead and hop on the inside. I have new fluid. I'm using Amsoil that we'll be putting in here. Oh, and then the other thing we're doing, please note, I'm following a guide that will be linked in the video description, and that is where all that information will come from. So I guess we'll find out what happens. Meantime, let's go ahead and start working down here. When I'm power washed under here, it's looking nice and clean. Find out if that stays that way or if I have more leaks somewhere that'll come to fruition. The adjustment nut is located right there. And I'm using a 19mm socket to loosen it, and then there seems to be a torque bit on the inside. That's how you're actually going to loosen and tighten the band. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this guy loose first, and then once that's loose, I'll go ahead and grab a torque bit, figure out what size it is, and let you guys know. There we go. Alright, so it's loose. Using my light in here so I can figure out what size this thing is. But clearance is not super great with the stuff in the way. There we go, it seems to be the right size. Or is it T30 is the size I'm looking at. So let's see if I can get a box wrench on there. 19mm. 19's on. And then what we want to do is tighten this guy up basically. And we want it to get tight. And then according to the chart, we need to tighten this to 72 inch-pounds. So I'm just getting it snug with this wrench, and then I'll pull out. Yeah, so that's snug. Let me pull out my torque wrench. There we go, 72 inch-pounds. Now, we gotta back it off because that's obviously too tight. It's kind of the reset period, and backing it off to, for the 97 and 2002, 1 and, front band adjustment, 1 7/8 turns. Oh, that's a real nice, sweet. Yeah, that's my favorite. I'll do 1 7/8 turns. Well, that's gonna be fun. Let's try and measure out 1 7/8 turns. I do think this is quite loose though, because the bolt is significantly more sunk in than it was. I will say that for sure. All right. Looking at the C on my wrench to figure out what 1 turn is. That's 1. And 7/8 is almost all the way around again. I just detach this and do it by hand. All right, that's about 1 7/8, or as close as I can get it. So now I gotta figure out how to tighten up this guy so that I can tighten it and it doesn't also tighten my adjustment screw. See if we can get it by hand maybe. Yeah, snug by hand, and then I'm gonna try and tighten this up real quick with a wrench. Actually, there's a lot of room up top, so I think that might be the way. I want the wrench to stay here. Once we get it snug, we can tighten it up the rest of the way. There we go. Decently tight now. And all we're gonna do is tighten it up to 25 foot-pounds. So I gotta grab my other torque wrench, and then we're gonna tighten that bolt to 25 foot-pounds, then we'll start on the inside. But that's the front and exterior band adjustment. So this is where it gets fun. The next band is actually located inside the transmission pan. Inside the trans, it's located around here. So what we gotta go ahead and do is pull off the pan. This works out because I did want to do a fluid change and check the quality of it and a filter. Also have a new seal on the way, so it is what it is, but just be in mind that you're going to have to change out the fluid if you're going to do this. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do next. Let me go ahead and flip you on time lapse, and we'll pull off all these bolts and drain the fluid. Alright, so I'm just going to let it drain like this for a little bit until it stops coming over the rim, just because I don't want to make a huge mess and my pan doesn't quite cover the back half. So, or my drain bucket here. So I'm going to let it drain out the top, and then I'm going to slowly basically undo this bolt right here and just let the front drop forward. Hopefully that'll drain everything into the front half of the pan out, and I can drain it all that way without it making a huge mess. Okay, so it's been draining for a little while, and I'm just going to loosen this bolt ever so slightly, starts dropping the pan forward, and as such we start getting more droppage over there in that corner, which is what I want. And yeah, so she's coming down just like that. Okay, so now that the pan is off and everything, this is the filter we got to get off next. And I believe there's two T25 bolts in each of these holes right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop those out, and then we should be able to take our filter off. Alright, so now the filter's out of the way. We don't actually need it out of the way, I don't think, but this is the adjustment bolt right there. So looking at the back corner, it's this guy. So we're going to take a 14mm and crack it loose. And then we're going to go ahead and take something a lot smaller. It looks probably like an 8 in all honesty. And we'll start doing the adjustments to it. So take a 14. We're going to go ahead and loosen this guy. Alright, now that's loose, we can go ahead and adjust our other bolt. That is, so it is a 7mm. Definitely pretty tiny. Alright, so next up I'm going to go ahead and adjust this rear screw, bolt, whatever. I went ahead and backed out the bolt about 5 or 6 turns, basically to get it flush with this guy. And then it's pretty loose, so I'm just going to do it by hand. Same thing, you're just going to bring it in until it's tight, and then you're going to tighten it to 72 inch-pounds once again. So I'm going to adjust my torque wrench real quick. 72 inch-pounds, looks like it's a 1/4 inch ratchet. It's the size it needs to be. So now that we have it there, we're going to go ahead and back it off. So now, according to our chart, we'll double check, see exactly what that says. 99.7 into 2002, we're going to back it off 3 full turns. So, I'm going to back this sucker off 3 turns now. I think the point of using the torquing it down to begin with. Alright. Is to get all the slack out of it. 1, 2, 3 right there. All right. And then it's a 14mm to actually tighten. Sweet. So that's that. Bands are now adjusted. So all we're waiting on is our filter to show up, and then we're gonna put that thing back on and slap it together. Pop the pan back on the and refill. All right, so the pan's all cleaned up, as you guys can see. The old magnet got all the crap off of it, and it's actually in pretty good shape. I mean, for having 223,000 miles, if this is the stock transmission, which who knows, to be honest. But compared to the Avalanche one, when I took that thing apart, this looks like immaculate in comparison. So, you know what? I'll take it as a win. Once the new seal shows up, I'm going to go ahead and put a Beta RTV around here just to kind of make sure everything seats. The surface is a little bit rough, worse for wear. Want to make sure that's nice and good, and the transmission side is clean, so we should be good there. All right, so a couple days have passed, and finally got this stuff to come in. There's a delay in shipping, but putting out our new Wix filter, I'm going to be using some RTV around this side of the seal, just because this is kind of a rough surface. The Wix gasket that comes in is pretty thick rubber, which is nice, will definitely help, but can't be too safe. So once we get that together, we'll go ahead and crank her all down and start adding trans fluid. So let's go ahead and knock that out. All right, so these two screws right here get done down to 35 inch-pounds. And then I went ahead and got our gasket laid on top, and I stuck all the bolts through, at least on this gasket. I can stick them all through, and it helps hold it in place. So next up, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. Bolt pan's back on. It just about takes care of everything underneath the truck. All the bolts get torqued down to 13 foot-pounds or 156 inch-pounds. So the inch-pounds wrench out, I just went ahead and used that. So, old girl's done. Now let's go ahead into the top, and I'll show you what we're doing up there. All right, so the way we're gonna go ahead and fill this thing up should take anywhere between 4 and 5 quarts. So I have 5 quarts of AMS oil here, good old automatic transmission fluid. I also got a thing of Lucas transmission fix. I don't think mine's slipping, but honestly, it can't hurt. It's not gonna have any negative effects whatsoever. So I figure might as well go ahead and shove it in there and do this first, and then we'll add in our transmission fluid. Now, after you add transmission fluid, trying to test the level is kind of difficult because your tube is full of fluid that's still flowing down there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take the old stuff, and as I empty out each quart bottle, I'm gonna go ahead and basically just, basically all we're gonna go ahead and do after that is just, damn, check that out. Fill it back up with the old stuff. And that, in theory, should go ahead and let us know how much we need. So basically, as I empty out one of these, I'll go ahead and dump the dipstick in, and that should take care of that. So the easiest way is to get one of these little skinny funnels here. You stick it into the transmission tube, and you're just gonna go ahead and pour everything in. So this will take the longest because it's the thickest. After this is in, we'll use a regular fluid. So let's go ahead and knock this out. So yeah, I wound up using all 5 quarts and the little bit of Lucas in there. Well, not the little bit, the full thing of Lucas, and I still had almost a quart left over. So hopefully it wasn't overfilled too much. Well, I didn't underfill it, but let's see where it shows up. I haven't turned this thing on yet or done anything to see. Yeah, so it's like, it says full right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. Shift through the gears. Once shift through the gears, a little idle for a little bit. And I'll check again, see what the level looks like. So let's go ahead and turn this girl on. It's been a little bit, I'll say the least. Definitely been a couple days, so we'll see if that hard start's still there. Actually, it'd be a good time to find out. Like a glove, no hard start. So that's awesome. All right, I'm gonna go take it for a test drive and see how it does. All right, let's see how it shifts. Not too much here. We'll see what happens. Felt all right. Still doing the delayed shift thing. Let's go and bring it all the way down to 0 again and see if there's any difference noticed. Still not shifting on sound like it's supposed to. It should have shifted by now. I think you really got to give it just like 2,500 RPMs when it still shifts, so I don't know. Yeah, so it does, I don't know, it's hard to say. It doesn't really feel much smoother. I'm going to try it out a little more by myself, but we'll see if there's any differences. Well, we just got back from a little test drive. I'll see if anything's leaking and see what's up. So I will say, initial impressions. So the delayed shift thing, I don't know if that's just a Dodge thing or not. The reason I say that is because I have heard issues with the trans being silly like that, especially for the diesels. There was a couple of things saying that they usually shift late, try and keep the transmission happier by keeping it higher in the power band. Don't know how true that is, but it's a possibility, I guess. However, yeah, so I was checking, no, we are leaking a little bit. Specifically right here, I replaced, well actually no, let's drop engine oil. Probably from the tube right up there that dripped down. So I still got to reroute the PCV on this truck. So yeah, no trans fluid dripping though, so that's good. I had to redo this line right here because it was kinked off pretty bad in all honesty. So now it is no longer kinked off pretty bad. And yeah, see AC dripping, but it's the only thing. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Let's check our fluid next, but it shifted pretty good. So like I was saying, I'll show you, this is that piece of tubing I was talking about under there that got bent. So we cut that out and just basically ran the rubber hose over to it. So that's that. Now to check the trans fluid level, we're doing hot and idling, which it is. So I think I did overfill it a little bit. It shouldn't be too big a deal, but just to be aware, don't put in that much. Probably do the 4 quarts, test it out, and then go from there and do periodic adjustments. So I thought it was, I guess it was overfilled before. I thought going off the old fluid level would be the way to go. I guess not, so it is what it is. So like I was saying, I didn't notice an issue necessarily in shift timing, I guess is the best way to put it. So it's still shifting at around 2,500 RPM. I can get it shift around 2,000 if I let off a little bit. Could be a TV cable issue. It could be a couple other things. If I do figure it out, I will let you guys know for sure. However, what I did notice, the upshifts and downshifts while actually cruising are way smoother. So it used to be where when I let off the gas a little bit to let it upshift, or shift to the next gear, I guess, it would chunk pretty hard. Like you'd hear it, you'd hear stuff sliding around under the truck. You'd hear, like, for sure it'd be like a, it almost sounded like a loose belt, really is what it sounded like. So the fluid that also came out of this was definitely a little bit on the sparklier side. It didn't look like it under the truck when I was draining it into the containers. Definitely a little sparkle going on, so could have been fluid, maybe, I don't know. And then but yeah, the band adjustment definitely helped with smoothing out the upshifts and downshifts in terms of, like, while driving. Like around 35 usually is when it likes to upshift into the next gear, or downshift rather. It's kind of like a in-between zone a little bit for it, and it did it a couple times. It's very smooth. I didn't notice anything crazy. It didn't sound jarring. Like, they literally used to shake the entire truck when it would shift gears, and now it's a lot better. I did a little bit of a, not really watt pull, but a pretty heavy acceleration pull, and it did what it's supposed to do. It shifted about right about 3,000 RPM, 2,800 RPM. So I think everything is, I think it's honestly in good order. I think our little adjustment helped for sure. Could still be a couple other things. I've heard the shift solenoids in these can be upgraded for a GM unit, or there's a couple other stuff. I may do that in the future. To be honest though, what I'd like to do is build this truck up a little bit. I want to do injectors and a turbo, and I want to see like a nice 800 foot-pounds of torque, 900 foot-pounds of torque getting put out this motor. And in order to do that, we need to have a built transmission. So if this one lasts, awesome. I don't think it's going to last forever by any means. The fluid, like I was saying, was a little sparkly. And for stock power level though, which, I mean, for all I know, it might be like that for a couple years. It just depends how the chips fall, really. It feels pretty good. So I think I'm more confident in towing with it. Hopefully the new fluid will help with any slippage or anything. I know that's usually not how it works, but maybe the Lucas stop will. Like I said though, I never really experienced any slippage in this trans. There's one time when I was towing up to the drag strip that just for a little bit on the highway, it seemed to kind of, I wasn't sure if I wanted to lock up the converter or not. Couldn't tell if it was slipping or if it was a converter lockup thing. But it didn't seem to be a progressive issue by any means, and it hasn't done it since. So that was the only time I noticed anything funky. So that was kind of a long-winded explanation of what I noticed and what I feel with this truck. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. We do have some more stuff going on, a steering box and the brake booster. The hydraulic brake booster is getting replaced pretty soon here. So like I said, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Also, my Instagram and all the parts that I use in this video are in the description down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.